The name of our MC is Li Yi, an experienced interdimensional operative. Every day, he put on a protective suit and risked his life by entering another dimension to mine energy stones. Right before entering the portal, one of his superiors praised him with a proud smile. He acknowledged his good performance during the month, commenting that if he kept up this pace, he could pay off his parents' debt in approximately a year. Placing his hand on his shoulder, he mentioned that if Li Yi maintained this pace for another 3 to 5 years, he could even buy a small apartment. Li Yi began to show a forced smile, promising to work hard, although deep down he cursed this heartless capitalist. His real plan was to pay off the debt and leave. He had no intention of working another 5 years in this shitty job. You see, the radiation in other dimensions offered a 1 in 1,000 chance for an ordinary person to awaken as an advanced one, but it was also deadly. No one would choose to put on a suit and work in another dimension unless forced by life's own circumstances. The trucks began moving toward the portals. One of the men asked his friend if Li Yi was the guy he had talked about, the one whose parents had died in an accident 3 years ago, who not only received no compensation but also ended up with their debt. His friend nodded, explaining that NG Group had insisted that his parents caused a loss of $1 million. Li Yi was a truly unfortunate boy. The chubby one did not agree. He stated that there was nothing regrettable about this. Li Yi was simply weak. If it were him, he would risk everything to make the company pay. The friend was somewhat confused, since he thought he was going to make them pay with their lives. The chubby one crossed his arms and asked his friend if he was stupid. He explained that taking a life would solve nothing. Getting some money was much more practical. Li Yi's eyes began to shine with rage. Sometimes, a person became weak not because of themselves, but because society, because the world, had gone mad. Several hours later, they got off the trucks, put on the equipment, and decided to get to work. Just then, the ground began to shake, and one of the men thought there was a collapse. The supervisor explained that this was just a small earthquake. The chubby one's eyes widened in confusion, since he had never heard of earthquakes in another dimension. Despite having worked in many dimensional zones, they had never heard of an earthquake. This led them to wonder if monsters were about to appear. They began talking among themselves. One warned that they should not continue working, mentioning that he had heard this place used to have aliens, which were even harder to face than insectoids and beasts. They came to the conclusion that it was better to stop. This was too dangerous. The supervisor gave the order to everyone to be quiet, making it clear that the advanced ones had cleared this area of aliens 3 years ago, so it was impossible for them to appear. Just before he could finish speaking, a claw pierced through his chest. Upon seeing this, the other's eyes widened in fear. Li Yi was paralyzed with fear, not knowing what to do. Just before dying, the supervisor revealed that it was an alien. At that moment, several powerful beasts known as aliens began descending from the sky, creating chaos. The aliens began to massacre the workers, causing the others to start fleeing for their lives. Li Yi began to run with all his strength, remembering that he was more than 10 kilometers away from the dimensional rift exit. His eyes widened in terror. He wondered if running would really help at all. He was aware that this was completely beyond what human strength could handle. One of the aliens threw the body of one of the workers toward Li Yi, making it crash against his back and smash into the wall. Li Yi began to pant heavily and saw the workers get on the truck. When they started the truck, our boy asked them to wait for him. But just then, one of the aliens landed on top of the truck, used its sharp claw to make a hole in the roof. Seeing this, the workers panicked, knowing that this was not good. The alien grabbed the 2 workers, and with a jump, overturned the truck. The other aliens began to advance toward the vehicle, and our boy soon realized that their target was the people inside. But not long after, the truck exploded, causing the bodies of the aliens to be thrown. Li Yi put his hand over his face and couldn't help but panic. The fire began to burn the aliens, making them writhe in pain. The aliens collapsed. Li Yi, injured, stood up, and couldn't help but wonder if fire was their weakness. His attention was fixed on one of the torches that was lying on the ground. He decided to test his theory. One of the aliens lunged at him. Our boy jumped and started running toward the torch, taking advantage of the momentum. Luckily, he managed to reach the torch and grabbed it. Li Yi started to swing the torch from side to side. The alien immediately stopped advancing toward him. When Li Yi pointed the torch at them, the monsters froze in fear. His eyes began to shine with confidence, and he revealed to everyone that these creatures were afraid of fire. 10 years ago, some gates suddenly appeared all over the world. Through them, insectoids, beasts, and aliens from dimensional realms emerged in swarms and invaded Earth. Only the advanced ones, awakened by the radiation, possessed the power to resist these monsters. Their appearance not only allowed humans to close the gates, but also opened a new era of exploration and development of dimensional energy for humanity. Unfortunately, they were not advanced ones. Li Yi ordered everyone to quickly gather as many flammable materials as possible. Some workers grabbed torches to repel the aliens, while the others ran toward the burning truck. They were just ordinary people, and simple survival in this world cost them everything they had. In front of the monsters from the gate, they didn't even have the strength to flee. One of the men grabbed a torch, and his body began to tremble, causing his eyes to fill with fear. He knew that the torch wasn't going to last much longer. Li Yi began to sweat and revealed that there was gasoline in the storage room. His plan was to block the entrance with fire in order to hold out until rescue arrived. Li Yi ordered them to stand back to back, form a circle, and retreat slowly. Li Yi's plan began to work as little by little they started advancing toward the storage room. Once close, Li Yi asked them to pour the gasoline at the entrance. One of them nodded. They kicked the barrels, causing the gasoline to fall at the entrance. Once one of the aliens stepped on the gasoline, Li Yi and the others threw their torches. The torch made contact with the gasoline, creating a powerful flame which spread throughout the entrance, burning the alien. With a grateful smile, the old man placed his hand on Li Yi's shoulder. As they caught their breath, they admitted that if it hadn't been for him, they would all be dead. They assured him that if anything happened, he only had to ask, and they would definitely help him. Li Yi's attention was fixed on something, making him curious. In this room, there was a statue. Seeing Li Yi's expression, the old man explained that it was discovered a long time ago in the mine shaft. He believed that Supervisor Wong planned to smuggle it out to sell it on the black market, and because of this, he had kept it here. Li Yi began to observe carefully, realizing that the statue was very ancient. They belonged to Sector 7, and using the walkie-talkie, they asked when someone would come rescue them, revealing that they were under attack by aliens and urgently needed reinforcements. The rescue team reported that they had received their message. They were told that, for the moment, they should ensure their own safety, as the rescue would arrive in approximately 2 hours. Upon hearing this, their eyes widened with fear, and when they asked if they could come earlier, the walkie-talkie signal was lost. They panicked, not knowing what to do. The situation was even more desperate since the power sources of their protective suits only had an hour and a half left. The fear of dying was palpable. Some thought about the wives and children waiting for them at home. Cursing, one of them proposed breaking through with a vehicle, arguing that it was better for at least one to escape than for all to sit waiting for death. With a calm look, Li Yi looked at his wrist, realizing that his suit had little energy left. He could only hope that the rescue would arrive soon. One of the workers caught everyone's attention. It was the chubby one, who was holding a wooden stick. His eyes began to shine with malice, revealing that the energy in their suits would not last until the rescue arrived, and in this situation, someone would have to make a sacrifice. His attention focused on Li Yi and the old man. Our boy remained calm. The chubby one began pointing at Li Yi with the wooden stick and made it clear that Li Yi had no ties and was drowning in debt, so his life was only suffering. Because of this, he demanded that he hand over the battery from his suit. Li Yi's eyes widened with rage, causing him to clench his teeth tightly. Seeing that Li Yi was trying to resist without having the strength, the chubby one hit him with the stick. Li Yi blocked the attack, causing the wooden stick to break in half. Our boy began to writhe in pain, and the chubby one mocked him, challenging him to resist. With a furious gaze, they grabbed Li Yi by the neck and took off his mask, saying that maybe exposing him to radiation would trigger his awakening. They added that if he awakened his powers, he could become the hero who would save them. Crawling toward his mask, Li Yi swore to those bastards that if he awakened, the first thing he would do is kill them. Their eyes began to shine with malice, and a confident smile spread across their faces. The probability of awakening was 1 in 1,000, and they didn't believe he was so lucky, believing they had secured another battery. They turned around to the others and asked who would be next to try to awaken. One of the men panicked, pushed his companions, and started running toward the truck, causing the chubby one and the others to start chasing him. His eyes were shining with determination. He said that if they were going to die, then they would all die together. He started up the truck, and without hesitating for a second, decided to flee from this place. In the process, he made the statue fall to the ground in front of Li Yi. The others panicked. They knew they had to stop him immediately, because if he broke through the fire barricade at the entrance, everyone would be lost. They couldn't do anything since he knocked down the outside fire barrier, allowing aliens to enter. Li Yi's attention was fixed on the statue, and his eyes widened in confusion. He didn't know if it was smiling. The statue's eyes began glowing with evil, and a smile spread across its face. Upon seeing this, our boy thought that even the statue was mocking him. One of the aliens entered the room and crushed the head of the statue. Our boy put his hands on top of his head to avoid being hit by the pieces. With glowing eyes, the alien began to extend its claw toward Li Yi, ready to end his life. Our boy raised his head and couldn't help but wonder why. The alien grabbed him by the head and prepared its sharp claw. Li Yi panicked, not knowing why he had to endure all this. The alien pierced Li Yi's chest, and our boy realized that all this was happening only because he was weak. Li Yi began to remember his past, his poor relatives telling him to leave, refusing to raise him after his parents' death, the landlord throwing him out for not having rent money, and the relentless demand that he pay off his debt, no matter that his parents were gone. Our boy was lying on the ground in front of the owner of the group, who questioned his intention to investigate the death of his parents and to sue the group. He threw the letters in Li Yi's face, revealing that all the complaints he had sent everywhere had ended up in his hands. He mocked him for not wanting compensation, but rather the truth, and assured him that he would give him this truth. He revealed that the truth was that his parents had violated procedures and caused the accident. Not only would they not compensate him, but they would also make him pay for the millions in losses that his parents had caused to the group. Li Yi could only clench his fist tightly. One of the men from the group kicked him in the face, making it clear to him that he had been warned. It would have been better if he had signed the compensation agreement and taken those tens of thousands instead of insisting on knowing the truth. Li Yi fell to the ground. Now, his debt was under the man's management. 30,000 in monthly interest, and the principal to be paid in 3 years. He warned him that on the 15th of each month he would send someone to collect, and if he didn't have the money, he shouldn't blame them for being rough. Seeing how pitiful Li Yi looked, he decided to show him a path, become a dimensional miner, since this was the only job with which he could manage to pay off his debt. Back in the present, the alien pierced Li Yi's chest, making him spit blood from his mouth. He was going to die anyway, but decided not to make it easy for the beast. Li Yi didn't care about being weak and was not willing to accept death, so with eyes shining with determination, he bit the alien on the arm. It pulled its claw out of Li Yi's chest, causing his body to crash hard against the ground. Li Yi's face was covered in blood. The smell of this beast was truly disgusting. At that moment, the statue activated and a demon made of shadow appeared. With a smile, he mentioned that it had thought he might burst forth with some hidden potential, but this turned out to be just a useless struggle before death. With a hole in his chest and writhing in pain, Li Yi mocked the demon. He had at least bitten the alien once, but what about him? He was nothing more than a broken statue, shattered by this beast as if it were nothing. The demon made it clear that he was the only one who could save him now. He just had to obediently hand over his body. With a gaze full of rage, Li Yi refused. He wasn't interested. He preferred to die rather than be controlled, much less by a spawn like him. Seeing that Li Yi wanted to die with pride, a smile spread across the demon's face. The alien prepared to finish off Li Yi, and the demon made it clear that Li Yi had no right to refuse. At that moment, a strange energy began to emerge from his body, and the shadow system activated. Seeing this, the alien's eyes widened in confusion. It didn't know what was happening. Without hesitating for even a second, it knelt before Li Yi. Li Yi's body changed and was now surrounded by shadow, and being controlled by the demon's eyes began to shine with rage, realizing that this alien had been the one who had crushed his statue. Without hesitating for a second, the demon used his powers, causing a giant foot to crush the alien's body. The demon began to observe the alien in silence. Just then, another monster appeared and began charging toward him. The demon turned around, and not long after, a small demon made of shadow appeared under its feet. It opened its mouth and swallowed the alien. When another alien tried to attack, the demon cut off its head. According to him, this smell was really disgusting. The demon began to walk toward the workers and decided it was time to take care of the rest of this trash. Shadow emerged from the ground, wrapping around the bodies of the workers. They panicked, demanding to know what Li Yi was doing, and made it clear that if he dared lay a finger on them, they would report him. While a powerful energy was emerging from the demon's body, his eyes began to glow, and a curious smile spread across his face. He wanted to know exactly what Li Yi would do if he gave him back his body. The workers began to beg Li Yi not to hurt them, explaining that they were only trying to survive. With fear on their faces, they mentioned that if it weren't for them, Li Yi wouldn't have even known he could become an advanced one. They admitted to having been a bit harsh with him, but thanks to this, he had also awakened. With a piercing gaze, Li Yi asked sarcastically if he should thank them now. With a smile, one of them mentioned there was no need to thank them. He simply had to pretend nothing had happened and let them go. Our boy's eyes began to shine with malice. He snapped his fingers and with a smile not only decided to let them go, but even decided to lend them a hand. Shadow emerged from our boy's body and tore off the workers' masks. They began to cough and bleed, and not long after, they lost their lives. Li Yi turned around, and the other workers panicked, begging him not to kill them since they hadn't done anything. Li Yi dropped their batteries and revealed that now they were theirs, leaving them somewhat confused. The demon manifested again and asked our boy to spare his useless pity since it would only drag him into trouble. Our boy began to walk away and told the demon to shut up, as he didn't need it giving him orders. The demon wanted to see if he would keep acting tough when he was at death's door. When Li Yi came out of the cave, he saw a horde of powerful aliens approaching. He was somewhat confused, as he didn't expect there to be so many outside the cave. With a smile, the demon decided to give Li Yi two options: hand over control of his body, or take care of the trash himself. The aliens lunged at Li Yi. Our boy's legs began to tremble with fear, and noticing this, the demon made it clear that without his power, he was nothing. Our boy filled himself with enthusiasm and jumped, dodging the alien's attack. He once again made it clear that he didn't need to be given orders. The alien attacked again, but Li Yi dodged the attack again. While our boy was in the air, the alien took advantage and launched a powerful punch, but luckily, Li Yi reacted in time and blocked the attack at the last second. While he was distracted, another alien appeared behind him, ready to attack. Our boy's eyes filled with fear. He reacted in time and dodged the attack, saving himself by a hair. He was somewhat surprised, since even his reaction and speed had improved a lot. The beast lunged at Li Yi. Our boy focused and decided to use the power of the shadow system. The demon mocked him, asking if this was all the power he had even after having linked with the shadow system. Li Yi clenched his fist tightly and gave a powerful punch to the alien, making its body shoot out. His eyes widened in surprise. He didn't know why his power had increased so much. Despite having received the attack, the alien was still alive. Our boy realized that attacking only with his body was not going to do enough damage to them. He wished to have a weapon in his hands. Shadow manifested in his hand, and a dagger made of shadow appeared, leaving him in shock. The alien stood up and began to charge at him. Our boy decided to check if the dagger fit his hand. Li Yi moved quickly, cutting the alien in half. Li Yi's eyes filled with joy. Now he could kill aliens too. Two aliens lunged at him. Li Yi still couldn't believe that he had become an advanced one. One of the aliens attacked Li Yi from behind. He turned around and cut off its head. Then he began to charge towards the other aliens. He finally had the power to counterattack. Li Yi continued fighting against the aliens. He was exhausted and with his face full of blood. His effort had paid off since he had killed all the aliens. A notification appeared, announcing that his advancement had been successful. He was an advanced one of rank E. A few hours later, Li Yi was in the hospital. The nurse was confused, as she noticed that he had no injuries or illness. Everything in his body was normal, which made it inexplicable that he still hadn't woken up. The doctor who was examining our boy explained that the advanced ones were like that. They became severely exhausted because their bodies needed to adapt to the new level. The nurse's eyes began to shine with love and surprise. She wanted to know what level our boy was. Noticing her excitement, the doctor suggested they wait for him to wake up before talking about his level. He decided to go to the next room. The nurse didn't want to leave. She wanted to stay and observe him a little longer, as she found him very handsome. Shadow began to emerge from Li Yi's body, and then the demon appeared. He felt frustrated for having to inhabit a human, a race he considered low level, and that, on top of that, was E-class. With his status and strength, his host should have been at least S-class or A-class, or in the worst case, B-class, but instead he was trapped in this shell. Even so, it seemed interesting that a simple E-class could activate the power of the shadow system and change form on the first try. It was a shame because a body like this couldn't handle even 1/10,000th of his authority. Seeing that the demon had reappeared, Li Yi felt somewhat confused. He wanted to know what exactly it was and why it clung to him. The demon's eyes began to glow as he revealed that he was the ancient supreme entropic one of the entropic clan, the sovereign of all dimensions and prisons from other worlds. He ordered Li Yi to offer him his body, assuring him that he would be well rewarded once he reclaimed his throne from those who had betrayed him. Li Yi began to observe the demon closely. He did not believe a single word of it. To him, the titles Ancient Supreme and Entropic Clan were complete nonsense that he had never heard of. He compared the creature to a cockroach and decided not to give up his body to something so dark and ugly. The sovereign felt furious upon seeing that a human was mocking him and explained that there was no need for more words. The only value in Li Yi's existence was simply offering his body. Our boy began to ponder. He wondered if the sovereign was obsessed with him because of his physical attractiveness and if this was a possession by some evil spirit. The creature seemed to have serious problems, so he decided it was better not to provoke him for the moment. The idea that the sovereign might try to force him repulsed him. His face was unbearable, and the fact that his gender was uncertain made things worse. He debated between dying to prove his will and make him give up, or trying to reason with him so he would understand that this would never happen. However, he feared that enraging him would lead them both past a point of no return, dragging them into ruin and perishing together. Trapped between these terrible possibilities, he didn't know what he should do. Li Yi's thoughts made the sovereign start losing patience. He became furious and grabbed our boy by the collar. He was angry since he had destroyed his own eyes just to end up with this E-class human trash. If the situation hadn't been so desperate back then, he would have chosen an old dog over an E-class garbage. A gate appeared, and the sovereign threw Li Yi inside it, making it clear that if he didn't reach D-class in 3 days, he would erase him completely. Li Yi fell to the ground and his eyes widened in confusion. He remembered being in the hospital and didn't know what this place was. The sovereign crossed his arms and revealed that they were inside the gate of otherworldly prison, the E-class trial of his clan, the insect nest. He clarified that each member of the Qingtian race could only participate once after reaching adulthood. In front of our boy was a fierce beast with glowing eyes. Li Yi stood up and assumed that, by having possessed him, the sovereign had refreshed the trial attempt. The creature began to stare at Li Yi. It was a shield carapace beetle. Li Yi was confused, as he didn't understand why he recognized this species. The sovereign made it clear that the shadow system he had given him would read directly from his knowledge bank, and Li Yi had to get used to it. Li Yi clenched his fist tightly and made his shadow dagger appear. The shield carapace beetle attacked, but using the dagger, Li Yi began to block the attacks, realizing that it was very fast. With a furious gaze, it began to roar. The beetle attacked again. Li Yi jumped and dodged the attack and noticed that the beast's blind spot was right behind. Jumping, Li Yi attacked the beetle's shell. His attacks didn't have much effect, and when he landed on the ground, the beast attacked fiercely. Luckily, Li Yi reacted in time and blocked the attack. Stabbing the dagger into the ground, Li Yi stopped his moving body. Li Yi noticed that the beast's shell was very hard. The sovereign mocked him, asking if brute force was his only tactic. Our boy lunged at the beast, making it clear that his way of fighting was none of his business. Li Yi began to attack the beetle, but it blocked all his attacks, making Li Yi wonder if this beast even had a weak point. The eyes of the beast began to shine with rage. It swung its sharp legs, causing Li Yi to be thrown. Our boy crashed against the wall, causing him terrible pain. The sovereign demanded that he get up, calling him a weakling E-class. Li Yi's attention was fixed on his shoulder, and his eyes widened in confusion upon seeing a green liquid. The beetle had an injury on its leg. It prepared to finish off Li Yi, and our boy realized that this green liquid was its blood. His eyes began to shine with joy since he had found its weakness. With eyes shining with rage, the beast prepared to attack. A strange energy began to emerge from Li Yi's eye. He filled himself with determination and decided to see who the real weakling was. The sovereign was somewhat confused since he didn't know if Li Yi was using shadow sense. Our boy moved like a thunder, and in the blink of an eye, cut off one of the beetle's legs. The sovereign mocked Li Yi as he considered that all that effort to break a single leg was useless. Li Yi began to stare at the beast, making it clear that now it had one less leg to defend itself. He stomped on the ground forcefully, knowing that now hitting its weak point was going to be much easier. Now that the beetle was injured, it started to retreat. Li Yi knew he needed a more effective weapon, since the dagger was not going to be very useful now. He concentrated and began to manipulate the shadow, transforming it into a powerful spear. Li Yi struck the beetle under the abdomen, causing its body to be launched into the air. Li Yi began to observe carefully, realizing that the reason why the bug remained still was because its weak point was in the abdomen. Now that the beetle was defenseless, Li Yi drove the spear into its abdomen, making its body explode into pieces. A blue energy stone fell to the ground. Li Yi was panting heavily and couldn't believe he had won. The sovereign mocked him for panting so hard after killing a simple E-rank bug. Li Yi grabbed the stone and his mind was filled with confusion. He didn't know what it was, but he felt a surge of power enter his body. His progress for the D-rank breakthrough increased by 0.2%. The sovereign revealed that it was an energy stone, an object that had the possibility of increasing his ability level. At that moment, Li Yi became alert, but when he turned around, he saw nothing. He was confused, as he knew something was approaching, although he was unable to see it. With a smile, the sovereign suggested he use shadow sense to take a look. Li Yi turned around and with a confused gaze asked what kind of skill this was. The sovereign explained that he only needed to concentrate the shadow energy in his eyes to activate the shadow sense ability. Li Yi decided to comply and began concentrating his shadow energy in his eyes. One of Li Yi's eyes began to glow, successfully activating level 1 shadow sense. Another beast appeared and launched several spikes toward Li Yi. Thanks to shadow sense, Li Yi was able to foresee the attack and by jumping, dodged it, but in the process, it tore part of his clothes. The spike hit the wall and poison began emerging from the impact area. The beast continued launching spikes. Li Yi was somewhat confused as he did not understand what these things moving so fast were. The spikes began to approach Li Yi from behind at great speed. Luckily, Li Yi was flexible and was able to avoid being hit. He was somewhat confused as he did not know if the shadow sense skill of the sovereign was useless and asked why he could not see clearly. The sovereign made it clear that the skill was not useless, but rather that Li Yi's strength was too weak. Upon hearing this, Li Yi felt furious and decided to gather more energy in his eye. The sovereign was somewhat surprised, as it seemed increasingly interesting that a simple E rank could control the shadow energy with such skill. Li Yi was able to see the beast that was attacking him, a Warp Reaper bug known as the Head Reaper. The information described it as a stinger shooter, an expert in launching poisonous spines from afar. Little by little, he was adapting to the knowledge bank. Li Yi clenched his teeth tightly and his eyes filled with fear. In the blink of an eye, dozens of beasts appeared. Our boy panicked, realizing there were too many. The beasts began to roar and not long after started charging toward Li Yi. Our boy adopted a defensive stance, and the sovereign praised him for knowing how to find a position to avoid being attacked from all sides. He concentrated and summoned 2 shadow daggers, then made a wave of energy repel the beasts that were nearby. A powerful energy began to emerge from Li Yi's body. The sovereign was somewhat surprised, as Li Yi had already awakened the second stage of shadow sense with great speed. That a mere E-class achieved this was a pleasant surprise. While Li Yi's eyes were shining with rage, he began to stare silently at the other beasts.